calling in is a grace that a community extends. It is not immunity that you invoke for yourself. You do not get to prescribe the tone of your own accountability.
So when we think about what is a good apology, what should we expect, right? I mean, first and foremost, the other person, you cannot effectively apologize for something that you don't believe you have done or that you don't believe you have any accountability for. Hey, everybody. Welcome to The Wait and the Wonder. I'm Jason Herring, a licensed psychologist.
And I am Felicia Ross. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, licensed mental health professional.
This is where we take what's buzzing in pop culture and relationships and look at it through our therapist's eyes, not to diagnose the internet, but to explore the nuance that gets lost in hot takes.
Because usually there's more to the story. And on today's What's Happening, which is our segment that we do purely for YouTube. So please, if you like our What's Happening segments, please like, comment, and subscribe. Today we are discussing what makes a good apology, correct? And
Yes.
parasocial relationships.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just before we jump into that, as a quick reminder, while we are both licensed therapists, we are not your therapists. And this is not a substitute for therapy. So if you need support, you should seek professional help. Interestingly enough, we're going to do a segment about how to find a therapist not too long after this one. So take a look, and we're happy to explain how you go about doing that.
Yeah, and if you haven't checked out part 1 of our BIPOC mental health perspective, please check that out, because that is going to make a lot more sense as we get into part 2. That's going to be posted either before this or after this. I can't remember. We are humans first before we are therapists. So, you know, just let us just roll with that. But Jason, you have brought 2 things to the front, and I am excited to get into both of them because I am not familiar with either person that you brought to my attention. So I'm gonna kick it off to you, and let's go from there.
Yeah. So, something interesting happened on the internet, in my corner of the internet, I guess I'll say, which is, I think, an interesting blend. I built my algorithm brick by brick. So,
as you should on Beyonce's internet. As you should.
That's right.
As you should.
So my wife sent me something from that was related to drag queen. Her name is Silky, Nutmeg, Ganache. Okay, so I should take a step back and say that my wife and I are huge RuPaul's Drag Race fans.
I love that for you guys.
I think every episode but one. We still have the last episode of the most recent season of All Stars, which we will undoubtedly finish tonight. And so Silky Nutmeg Ganache is a drag queen who was on that show. She is back for All Stars. She's kind of back in the public eye.
Oh, so they do RuPaul's Drag Race, and then they bring back the most popular folks for All Stars?
Yes, that is correct.
So
yes, that is correct.
Cool.
And they seem to be basically like alternating seasons. So you'll have a season of sort of new queens, and then you'll have a season of All Stars, which are returning queens. Sometimes queens who've already won. One phenomenal season was All Stars, All Winners. So the whole season was like queens who
everyone
already
who's
won their original season, just coming back and being really great and entertaining. But anyway, so I think what's funny about this is, so I sent you these clips, and your immediate response was, and who were these people? So I'm going to start there, right, and just say, Silky is a drama queen and a drag queen. And I think both those identities are important because she's almost always in some level of mischief. And then the other person is absolutely not a drag queen. His name is Frederick Joseph. He is a writer, author, and an activist. And both of them got themselves into a little bit of trouble on the internet this week. And they had very different responses. And it really brought up for me a lot of thinking around like apology. Right. And what's a good apology, and when do we need an apology? When should we expect an apology from another person? But before I sort of jump into my thoughts, I know that you had some thoughts after I sent you those videos. So go ahead and share them with me.
I'll start with the Kiki meme. Who is this man? Like when you were telling me about Fred T. Joseph, I was like, I'm so sorry. I do not know who this man is. And with Silky Nutmeg Ganache, because I'm familiar with T.S. Madison, I understood the platform. I just wasn't sure of like the topic. So as someone who is very new to all of it, I think I had some very raw thoughts that I know you were laughing at me when we were DMing.
I was laughing. It was pretty funny. But I realized now that you said that I did not actually explain what happened with either of them. So
please do.
Let me roll that back. Okay. So the issue with Silky is that you will probably hear me use pronouns interchangeably.
Sure.
Right? Because
do they use pronouns interchangeably?
It's unclear, right? It's unclear.
Got it.
I have not heard them say she, her, he, him, So I'll just say Silky. Actually, that's
Yeah,
much
it just
easier.
says
And
yeah,
I'm going to say Silky.
that's how they prefer to go
So
by. That's what their name is. Yeah.
that's right. Silky went on T.S. Madison's podcast,
Mhm.
and they were in part talking about, the two of them were talking about some of the more toxic aspects of the fandom, right? We spend a
Mm,
lot of time talking about anime fandoms, but as we both know, a lot of fandoms are toxic. The
yes.
Drag Race fandom is no exception to that.
Mm,
Silky was specifically kind of talking about the way that Black queens, especially,
mhm,
experience certain aspects of the fandom.
mm,
And that's where the conversation kind of started between
yeah,
Silky and T.S. Madison, and just that, like, some of the inappropriate interactions and some of the
yeah.
expectations that feel to be different for Black queens versus non-Black queens, and
Mhm,
who is your favorite, and is
mm,
that queen a Black queen, and if not, why not? That's sort of
mm,
where it started. And
mhm.
then it kind of quickly devolved into Silky saying that, like, white fandoms tend to gravitate towards Oreos, or like Black
I haven't
people who
heard
are
that
like
term
white
since
on
I
the
was
inside.
in middle
Woof,
school.
man,
I
oldie
was called an
and baddie.
Oreo.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Oh, same. Same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know,
So,
and
well, do you wanna define what Oreos is for I guess
sure. Yeah.
I
So
don't know
for
if
those
this is
who
supposed to be
don't
protected
know,
AAVE, but it's also quite offensive.
yeah,
Don't call your friends
yeah,
an Oreo. Yeah.
don't use this term. So basically the argument is, like, you look Black on the outside, but
Mhm.
inside you behave like a white person. We could do an entire podcast, frankly, on, like, what is
We
problematic
could.
about that idea,
We could.
and the way
Yeah.
that that idea gets weaponized. But I don't
Mhm.
hear it as regularly anymore. I know
Mm-mm.
that it's a concept that, or a term that continues to be used, right, by
Yeah.
newer and newer generations.
Yeah, it's
But
a pretty macro,
yeah,
aggression, I would say, and so
yeah,
I can
yeah,
see how once that term got thrown out there where people kind of whipped their head and was like, "Whoa, okay."
yes,
Yeah.
right. And then Silky went on to name a specific Black drag queen who Silky says is an Oreo, and that is why white people like them, or
Who
white
is the
people
drag
tend to
queen? Because you
defend
know
them.
I'm
The
messy.
drag queen, they go by Bob the drag queen.
I like
Yeah,
Bob.
same.
Okay.
Great queen, won the original
Yeah.
season.
Mm.
Um, and
I saw Bob on
so,
Traders. That's how I got familiar
oh
with Bob the drag
yeah,
queen.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah,
really enjoyed them on Traders, but okay. Cool, cool,
yeah,
cool. I like
yeah.
knowing
Mhm.
origin stories. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they
Okay.
went on the same season now.
Mm.
So that landed poorly,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And I think a number of people online and in various ways
Mhm.
pushed back on Silky and said, hey, that's
Mhm.
pretty offensive.
Pretty
It's pretty
offensive language.
inappropriate. It is something that you and I have talked about before on the show, this idea of
Mhm.
when we punch across, when
Yeah,
we
versus
should be
punching.
punching up,
Mhm.
right? And so the challenge is that white fans treat certain Black queens
Yeah.
differently,
Mhm.
based on their experience of them. They could talk about that all day, and it
Mhm.
would be appropriate to do so.
Mhm.
Um, but I think then taking it to this place of,
Mhm.
oh, well, Bob is somehow the problem, right? And calling
Yeah.
into question Bob's
Mhm.
racial identity and Bob's,
And
commitment
how they
to,
present
yeah, being
themselves
pro-Black
or
or
yeah.
whatever, right?
Mhm.
Sort of crossed the line.
Yeah.
And so then we got an apology within a couple of days of that,
And I
at
enjoyed
least
that
that clip coming out.
apology. Yeah.
It was a pretty good apology.
Yeah.
We'll link both videos, the original video from
Mhm.
T.S. Madison's podcast, and then the apology that Silky posted on the page after. And so I think that it was really interesting to
Mhm.
see the apology follow so quickly, and the
Mm.
level of accountability that was included in the
Mhm.
apology. Um, the other thing that happened was Fred D. Joseph. So I should say I have been following him as a writer for a number
Yeah.
of years now.
Yeah. Because if
And
people
so
don't
I
know,
am more
you are
familiar
a
with
writer.
him.
Yes.
I
Mhm.
am. Yes,
He is a
I
writer.
write.
A great writer.
He writes.
Yes.
Writing is a broad concept. I'm not arguing that I write like he writes. He truly is a great writer.
Mhm.
So he wrote a great collection of essays called Patriarchy Blues, which I read a number of years ago, which is how I was introduced to him and his work in the first place. He has a pretty good Substack that he writes weekly. And he is also, I think, connected with being a writer. He also is an activist. And
Mhm.
so he writes specifically on Substack a lot
Okay.
about social activism. And he has been very open with his perspectives on, like Israel and Palestine
Mhm.
and the genocide happening there. He's been very open about his, opposition to capitalism.
Mhm.
He wrote a book. He writes children's books in addition to like nonfiction and that kind of thing. And
Okay.
so, young adult novels, like all that kind of stuff. And so I can't remember if his book was coming out or
Mhm.
getting ready to come out or had just come out. But around the time of the Target boycott, and this is important to what we're talking about today, around the time of the Target boycott, he did write a lot and post a lot and make pretty clear that he would be removing his book from Target's shelves in honor and support of the boycott of Target following all of the behavior. And so what happened with him,
Now
the
it puts a
reason,
lot of things in perspective.
yes,
Okay.
right. So
Yes.
he's kind of pulling it together. And so what Felicia means when she says that is that what happened recently is that he posted some pictures of himself attending both of Jay-Z's concerts, it sounds like, that he had in New York.
He went to.
I think he said he went to both of them.
Oh.
There were 2 shows. I think he said
Yes.
he went to both of them. I could be wrong about that. He went to at least one of them.
At least one of them. Okay.
It is important to understand, if you do not understand, that some of the controversies surrounding Jay-Z right now is that, so the reason that he is, I don't know if touring is the right word, but the reason that these shows existed is that his very first album, Reasonable Doubt, I think turned 20 or 30.
Was he doing the Blueprint and Reasonable Doubt, or
he was probably doing just
a
a
collection?
Retrospective of all of his songs, but he's recently re-released Reasonable Doubt.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure. And it's not to, before y'all come for me or Jason, it's not to say that we are not fans of what Jay-Z has done for hip hop or the culture. I like to add this disclaimer because y'all like to tussle and I like to block. So let me just
I will just say, like, in full transparency, Jay-Z is my favorite rapper, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to his music, right, his music has meant a great deal to me over the course of my life.
Overall.
When it comes to his behavior outside of music, right, his politics, right, like, especially within the past few years, that has become more and more concerning and problematic to me and to others.
Exactly.
And the reason that it matters here is that in re-releasing his first album, Reasonable Doubt, he exclusively re-released, I believe, the vinyl version of that album in Target.
In Target only?
In Target only. It is exclusively available. So if you want to buy the re-release of Reasonable Doubt, I believe on vinyl, you have to go to Target and buy it. Many Black people have been boycotting Target ever since. It's been, I don't know, 2 going on 3 years now, probably.
You see, but the wheels are turning in my mind of like, okay.
So the way that this all comes together is that when Fred Joseph posted pictures of himself attending this concert, there were people in the comments who were like, some are, I think, saying like, I'm confused. Can you explain, given your various stances, the things that you write about, the way that you show up on social media? How does this feel? How does attending these shows feel aligned with the way that you are presenting yourself to us? Right? Which I think is an interesting question. Some of the responses and comments weren't questions. It was anger, right? It was hurt. It was frustration. It was accusation. You can't possibly stand for the things you say that you stand for and attend this this concert, right? In good faith, right? Like those 2 things are incompatible.
I think the last part, in good faith, I think that is key there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And so he also recorded a response. But what I found interesting about his recorded response was that there was no apology to be found. He did not offer one. It wasn't that his apology was a bad apology. We'll talk about what that means a little later.
Yeah.
What I mean when I say that is like he did not offer an apology because he does not think he has done anything that he needs to apologize for. His general argument is he did not buy these tickets for himself. Members of his family who live at or below the poverty line and saved up to buy him something that they think that he would want, bought him these tickets. He did not feel like it was okay to sort of throw this gesture back in their faces and say, I don't support Jay-Z like that anymore. He also did say that, over the years, he has been a big fan of Jay-Z, similar to me, similar to lots of people, right? And so he also talked about the importance of nuance. I think he also talked about this idea of he has done the work, right? He's embedded in community. He consistently uses his Substack platform to participate in mutual aid, right? Campaigns, to fundraise for various, book bags for kids kind of thing, right? Like he is doing a lot of work, more than I would say your average person is doing, right, in support of communities here and abroad. And so I think a part of his response is also, well, why would you come for me in this particular way? Not come for me at all, but come for me in this aggressive, right, kind of a way where you're not asking me questions, right? Like, why wouldn't you ask me questions and then give me the opportunity to sort of walk you through how we wound up in this place, how I wound up at this concert? The confusing thing to me is also that he like posted pictures of him going. So I think what feels a little confusing in this argument that it's like, I just went because somebody bought these tickets for me, right? Some people have said like, why don't your people know where you stand,
I
right?
was just
And
like, I literally was just
understand.
thinking that a little bit. I was just like, well, if you've been this person and have been writing this way for, you said, his first like collection of essays and the way I'm assuming he has been presenting this way for over 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, in his collection of
Okay.
essays, he writes about losing a friend because he refused to go to his friend's gender reveal party, and that concept of the binary, right, and gender was like outside of his like social values. His friend got mad at him for refusing to come, and ultimately they'll end up ending their friendship, right? So like he has certainly been taking various stances that align with his sense of politics, his sense of like social activism for a number of years, right, and paying the cost, right, in one way or another. And so he has been presenting in this way for it sounds like a long time. And Patriarchy Blues was not new when I read it, right? It had been out for a few years, so maybe even as long as a decade, if not longer. On the one hand, I get where that's coming from. I would say, like, I don't know that my mom could explain to you my evolving thoughts on Jay-Z, right?
And I don't,
Like,
yeah,
she
I
also would
guess.
not, I don't think, I have never known my mom to buy me tickets to go to a concert. That's just like not her vibe. But if she did, I would probably go, And so, because it's like, it's just my mom. And it's like, okay, well, maybe after the fact, I'd be like, it was a great concert, but also here's something you should know about me. Right. But yeah, I think that what I mean when I say that is like, there are areas of my life and my experience and my perspective that my mom or my aunt or my cousin like might not be fully aware of because we have just not talked about that before. But I also am not a social media activist, right? Like, not that he's, just being an activist to be on
Yeah.
social media, right? But it's like,
Yeah.
I don't present myself to the world in the way that he presents himself to the world.
Pretty consistently. And
And so,
if
like, that is a little
it,
gray, murky to me. But yeah, take it away.
no, you could see me kind of connecting dots in my face and in my mind, and I'm just like, Here's where I'll start. I'll start with Miss Silky. I really enjoyed that she acknowledged, like, I have already had a conversation with Bob in private, and being able to say publicly, I already know the language is problematic. I need to be able to say that publicly because, again, here's how I feel about let me even backtrack. Here's how I feel about apologies in general. And we've talked about this of how I see it. Apologies for me is more for the person apologizing than it is for the person who you're apologizing to.
Yeah.
And the reason why I see it that way is because at the end of the day, I feel like the accountability is the true apology, in my opinion, right? And being able to say, here's the steps I have taken to ensure that this behavior that I did is not only acknowledged, but I am taking the accountability to ensure that we are going to be able to move forward in a way that is equitable for both of us, or as equitable as possible with the tools that I have at my disposal, right? So I really enjoyed Silky's apology for that reason, being able to say, I already acknowledged and had a conversation with Bob in private. I'm going to publicly also say, I would love to have a discussion so that I can maybe express where I'm coming from more in depth. Instead of just kind of throwing these terms out there that are harmful. And I know that my language was problematic, right? Public harm, public repair. And I think that was the difference for me in terms of what I saw with Silky versus Fred, right? Here's what I can see. And again, I'm coming from a space where I don't know them.
Yeah.
I think you can love Jay-Z's music while critiquing his politics. I don't think that that's the issue I was having. I think contradiction is human. I think the concert itself is not the problem. Like, even when folks went to the Kanye West concert, I don't care that you decided to go to a Kanye West concert. I care that you have said that you care about XYZ people and have decided to support a person who has said inflammatory things about XYZ people. So now I can use my free will to no longer support you, which hurt, because there's a lot of people there that I actually really am fans of their art and things with. And I'm just like, yeah, unless on a personal level, that's just the way that I do things. I cannot support you. Same with Usher, same with Chris Brown. Those are things I cannot support. So I cannot support you. R. Kelly, like, those things for me is like, nah, like, I can't do that. Contradiction is human. The concert is not the issue. It's just the fact that the responses, but I really enjoy their art. But you said that your social politics and the way that you appreciate other people and the way that you do your activism and the way you do your liberation work doesn't bang with the way that they do things. And so I think for me, when I saw his, well, I guess statement, that's what I'll call
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
And I could tell in real time that he was very frustrated. So he's human. He gets to be frustrated.
Oh,
I
sure.
think it
Yeah.
just threw me off a bit because he's talking to people who know his work, but this is my first interaction with him. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know your work. And if people are saying that your work is centering this in this way, if you have gone as far as to break off a friendship because you don't believe in assigning gender at birth because you know how harmful it is, which that is a whole separate
Yeah.
conversation.
Mhm.
If that is your standard, then you do take accountability when you do liberation work. You do stand on it. You say, you know what? Optics of this is not great.
Mhm.
And this is where I was. I was between a rock and a hard place because my loved ones, really worked really hard to make this happen for me, and I did not want to throw that in their face. I kind of feel a type of way about that because I feel like you're still skirting the issue. At the end of the day, if this has been your work for several years and your loved ones are not aware of your social politics to the point where you cut off a friend because of how you disagree with gendering at birth or assigning gender at birth, mm, mm, mm,
Yeah.
right? I think it's okay to say, I actually really with Jay-Z's music. With his music. I wanted to go.
Mhm.
And I was not going to turn that down. And I don't think that you get to write the books, do the things, set a standard for yourself, set a standard for others too, and then ask why folks won't let you live.
Yeah.
You held yourself to those standards. We didn't put you in those standards. You put yourself
Correct.
there.
Mhm.
And so to then kind of come on the internet and be like, well, why are you guys not calling me in? Do we get a chance? Can we? We are trying to. Now, the way we
Mhm.
may be doing it, well, not even we, because I'm so sorry for that man. I did not know him. But the way that your
Yeah.
audience is doing it may not align with you. But this then goes to the aspect of who gets to hold who accountable,
Yeah, yeah. Mhm. And
right?
how?
And I think for me, what kind of rubbed me the wrong way as someone who was just getting introduced to him, it was kind of like you feel like you've earned the right to be called in rather than criticized. So I'll bring up Loretta Ross's calling in
Sure.
work,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Calling in is a grace that a community extends. It is not immunity that you invoke for yourself. You do not get to prescribe the tone of your own accountability. And so the deflection be, even with him using that white follower and being like, well, you don't get to call me in, like you don't get to criticize me. There is a real conversation about white audiences policing Black liberation, writers,
Mhm.
activists, creatives, etc. And I think that conversation deserved a little bit more care. And invoking it in that moment where you are trying to come and explain yourself changes the subject from his choices to now this person, random white woman number 5 standing. I
Mhm.
think a lot of things can be true at one time, but only one of them answers the actual critique. And mind you, again, I've said it several times, I had no clue who this man was before this week, which is actually part of my next point. So, like, I'll kick it back to you, though, because I know I said a whole lot of it. Yeah,
No, I think that that's a
yeah.
great point. I do really appreciate your point around it's one thing to have a conversation between like you and I, right?
Yeah.
If you were calling me in and we have
Mhm.
this level of historical context,
Yeah.
right? That's a really different thing
Yeah.
than if this is the first time I'm interacting with your content and what I see is you kind of, uh,
It gave
I
little
don't,
Kim. It was
yeah, just sort of like
I'm
pushing
dodging.
back on
It's
like
like, what are we doing?
criticism. Right? And, like,
Yeah.
nobody likes criticism, right? So
Yeah.
if you ask me in isolation, um,
Mhm.
should we be critical of one another
Yeah.
relationally? I would tell you no, right? Criticism
Mhm.
breeds defensiveness. I think what we saw in this clip was in a lot of defensiveness,
Yeah, there was a lot of defensiveness in that clip.
And
Mhm.
so I think if you want to decrease the level of defensiveness, you have to
Mhm.
decrease the level of criticism,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I think that, we don't do this podcast to gossip,
No, no.
right? Although I do love
Mm,
gossip, just so we're
yeah.
clear, right? We, I'll
And not
channel Raquel
harmful
Martin
gossip
and
either,
say,
because ADHD thought. Not harmful
that's right.
gossip where we're talking about other people in negative ways, just like we like tea. I like to know
We
what
do.
happened. Mhm.
I am genuinely fascinated by other people in all their forms,
Mhm.
right? And so, like, this is always interesting to me, and so I will channel Raquel Martin when I say, if you're here to learn. And so what is relevant, I think, about this
Yeah.
is really ultimately about how we think about apologies and when we do ourselves a service or a disservice in expecting an apology. And
Yeah.
so I think the take home here for me is that people have to believe they have done something wrong to
Mhm.
take accountability, right? Fred Joseph did not offer any version of an apology. And that is because
Mhm.
he does not believe he did anything wrong.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I would encourage all of us not to expect or
Yeah.
accept apologies from people who do not believe they did anything wrong or that there's anything for them to take accountability for. right? I
Yeah.
think that when we think about a good apology, right, you and I made reference to this a number of times
Yeah.
already. And so what we are talking about is that there is a little research behind like what makes apologies effective, right? And there are ultimately 4 steps, right? One of these steps is there needs to be an acknowledgement of the offense. Right. One of these steps is that there needs to be an expression of genuine remorse. One of these steps is there needs to be a taking of responsibility, right, by the person offering the apology. And the last one is that there should be an offer to make amends of some sort. This isn't a hard and fast rule. There are other versions of good apologies that include some, but not all of these, right? There are usually at least 3 steps to a good apology, right? And then the 4th and 5th step, it varies, right, from
Yeah.
model to model, right? And I think, something that you pointed out that was very present in Silky's apology was that the majority of these were there. I didn't quite hear. So one thing that you do see that's not on this list sometimes is how will you go about ensuring you will not do this thing again, right? And I think that is actually as often I think it is missing from apologies is like, here's how I'm committing to not calling other people an Oreo publicly again, right? Or going to a Daisy concert again if that's what I'm apologizing for, or whatever it is, right? Here's what I'm going to put in place to keep that from happening. I don't think I heard a lot of that in Silky's apology, but I think these other acknowledging the
I heard the
offense,
other 3.
expressing
Yeah,
the
just saying like,
remorse, right?
yeah.
Taking responsibility and then offering to make amends. I want to apologize. I want to talk, we talked about this privately. I want to say this publicly, right? And so when we think about what is a good apology, what should we expect, right? I mean, first and foremost, the other person, you cannot effectively apologize for something that you don't believe you have done or that you don't believe you have any accountability for. And so, I mean, I also mean the flip side of this, right? So for those of you who love an insincere apology or feel not even love, for those of you who sometimes feel obligated to offer an insincere apology because you think this will fix the problem and keep things from getting worse, I would encourage, if you were in my office, I would encourage you not to offer apologies if you do not actually understand the thing that you were taking accountability for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please don't.
Mhm.
It doesn't. I agree. I don't think that allows true repair. I
Yeah.
think it builds resentment because you're actually not being honest with yourself or with the other person,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
It's not a
That's right.
fix. It's kind of like a here, damn, and please don't do that to people.
Yeah.
And also don't say the N word if you are not an N word.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We're not giving you permission. Yeah.
Please don't do that.
100%. Please don't do that.
Please don't do
Please don't
that.
do that.
Please don't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So that's what
Yeah.
I had.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll add on real quickly,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the single most important element that you brought up is acknowledgement of responsibility, right? And I do agree with that. And at the very least, it is necessary to acknowledge and say, like, how do we move forward? Right? How do we
Yeah.
have repair? Which is exactly why, like, well, I'm sorry you feel this way fails because it
Yes.
only acknowledges feelings, not what actually happened and what you actually did wrong. Right. And so it just adds on your point. So if you really feel like you did nothing wrong and you're saying, well, I'm sorry you feel this way, that's not a Freudian slip. It's literally you not being able to take accountability or responsibility because you probably didn't feel like you did anything wrong. And so don't just haphazardly apologize. So thank you for laying out
That's
what
right.
makes a good apology. And I think, and I'm hoping as we go into this next topic.
Okay. So let me start
Yeah.
with the question that I asked you
You did.
over in our like personal text chain.
You did.
And that question was, why are you getting cussed out on the internet? So explain to us what's going on and why you were getting cussed out on the
I don't
internet.
know. So here's the thing. Here's where I'll start. I understand that some people don't want professional folks who are licensed mental health professional therapists watching reality TV and giving our takes. Don't follow me.
Mhm.
Let me put that out there. Actually, let me even start here. I am a therapist. I am a licensed mental health professional. I am a human first. I do therapy. I am not therapy, right? I have therapeutic, I guess, aspects to me in my
Sure.
veins
Yeah.
because that is a part of how I move in the world. I am going to be very considerate. I'm going to be very gracious. I'm going to be very kind. I may not always be nice because not everyone deserves my niceties, but I will always be very kind in how I present information.
Yeah.
However you read that kindness, though, is really not my responsibility. And I want to start there because some folks on the internet have lost their mind if you think that you are going to step on my section of the internet and try to tell me about who I am as a person, and about what value I have as a licensed mental health professional. Some of you truly get to sit and wonder, why do I need to go to a person that I do not know, have never interacted with before, have no clue anything about them, and decide that their viewpoint on a situation that I have a different viewpoint on means that they cannot be good at what they do, or they must be a horrible person because I don't agree. Diabolical work. And that's why all of y'all are blocked.
People move there so quickly. This like, I feel sorry for your clients, right? Kind of a vibe. And it's like, you don't know anything
you
about
don't
the
know
way that this looks
anything
in
about the work that I do
therapy.
or about me.
Yeah.
This anti-intellectualism, this aspect of like, I don't want to be hit with things that I should do. I'm not telling you what you should do. I'm telling you what I researched, what research supports my viewpoint so that you guys know that this is coming from somewhere. So now let me give you the full, I guess, picture. I posted, I think at the height of the Anaya discourse for Love Island USA.
It all starts and ends with Love Island. You know, I'll just pause really quickly and just say, you know, I keep saying we are not a Love Island podcast, and yet
we have the most views. We have the most views because of Love Island. We gotta shout
every
out
time I try to get
shout
out
Love Island.
They pull me back in.
Yeah, and I think it's a sign, Jason. I think it's a sign.
I just have to stop fighting it, right? Like, it is truly my fault.
I think it's a sign. I've been telling people on Threads, I am trying out. I'm trying so hard. I'm trying so hard, you guys. But Jason is not budging. He said, though, you guys, that he would maybe do Marriage at First Sight.
I did say that.
He did say he would. He did say maybe he could do Marriage at First Sight. So we might get somewhere. We might get somewhere.
We might.
But no, I had posted a carousel post about how pop culture is the mirror and it is not, you know, it's a mirror for us, and also it's these people that you are seeing are not Sims. I hate when they call them characters personally for me because it's dehumanizing. I know that they are playing themselves and production is creating a story. You are thinking that they are a character, but they are like, and maybe they are characterizing themselves in certain ways because they're aware that there's several thousand cameras around them at all times, but they are still a human in a social experiment that is deeply unserious. And what typically happens from a production lens, which is mainly biased because it's mainly white folks or non-Black POCs that happens to Black folks on these reality TV shows, is that the edits that they get tend to have them looking more aggressive. My work is primarily around Black women. So I am going to talk about Black women, right? Am I biased? Yes. I am talking about a specific population that I am biased towards because I know what it's like to be in a body of that population. I am not the whole population. I just know what it's like to be a part of the population. And that is primarily that's primarily where my expertise lies. That is the majority of the population that I serve. I serve women of color in general, femmes, non-binary pals as well, trans folk as well. I speak up about that all the time. However, my expertise lies with Black women. And a lot of the research that I do is around the strong Black woman schema, stereotype, weathering, all of that. That's a lot of what my research has been around in the work that I do. So when y'all come on the internet, it's just like, you're biased. Yes. When you come on the internet, you're a horrible therapist. Okay. When you come on the internet of, oh, like, you're not seeing it from the Black man's point of view. Why aren't you giving me from the Black man's point of view? That's not what my research or my work is around. And I would encourage you to go find somebody else's work that it's around. I posted it on Threads because I was like, oh, we're having this discussion. I've had this discussion already. It didn't really get much numbers. So I really wasn't expecting it to blow up the way that it did. And I'm just like, cool. And people said they want to check out the podcast. I was very honest. I was like, hey guys, I was a little harsh on them because we were only at episode 8 at the time. Well, I was, and Jason could not get through episode 1. So you may not hear what you want to hear because we're not actually reacting to these people as people because we haven't had enough time with them. Because did I say throw the whole cast away? Yes, I did.
You did say that.
I did say that. And I stood 10 toes down on it at the time because I was like, there's no reason for us to really do this then because y'all are really in kind of this space with each other. So we just give, at the time, I think, I don't even know if I said names, but I'm like, just give the couple who has the best connection the 100K and let's start over next summer. I felt that way. It has changed. Why? Because I'm human. I could change my mind.
And like our perspectives they don't have to, but our perspectives can shift with more information and more context.
Beautiful. You see how you said that so eloquently? I wish more people could hear that and apply it to their own lives. Because,
I mean, truly, you don't have to think and feel the same thing all the time. And in fact, you likely should not think and feel the same thing all the time. I'm not saying that like you shouldn't have any like strong beliefs. What I am saying is that as you see different things, you hear different things, please read different things, right? Please read. Also, right? Please read.
Read.
I'm seeing all this stuff about post-literate societies, right? It's like, y'all, please read books. Please read books.
And And please critically think about the media that you are ingesting, not just from who you are seeing, but what is happening around them,
Mhm.
right? And I think so parasocial interaction, because now let me get into the nitty gritty because I had to do
Uh-huh.
research so that I could remind people who I am because y'all lost the plot. You
Truly.
lost the plot, truly lost the plot.
Uh,
Parasocial interaction is a concept, I believe, from in the 1950s. Maybe we're getting into the 1960s from
mhm.
Horton and Wall, and it's intimacy at a distance, right? So it's
Yeah.
really a one-sided relationship where the audience feels like they know the person that they're seeing on TV. And while they do not even know that you exist, right? So social media has supercharged parasocial relationships into
Yes.
something that is like quite interesting to see, but also quite dangerous at times as well, right?
Mhm.
Because there is this pile-on that happens. And a lot of the time, this parasocial connection that people have typically is supposed to be benign. Like if you feel connected to a podcaster, a contestant, a creator, a celebrity, etc.
Mhm.
Like that can be normal human even because you can see themselves in them to a certain extent. Like we've talked about Michael Jackson and I was like, oh, like when I was a kid, I used to kiss the screen because like I thought that he was the most gorgeous person alive and I thought he was gonna be my boyfriend, not realizing that I am too, and that is a man, a grown man.
I mean, there are a lot of barriers, I think, to Michael Jackson
Yeah.
becoming your boyfriend.
Oh, but yeah, so going back, if you are feeling a connection to a podcast or a contestant, a creator, that's normal. That's very human. Celebrity, normal, human, right? Like there are people that we see in media. I told you about Michael Jackson, etc.
Mhm.
So there's people in media that we align with, and we're just like, oh wow, like when they say things, I really listen or I feel connected to them because like
Mhm.
they're talking about my experience, and it's really cool to see that this person is on a wider scale than I am or could ever be at this stage in my life, and they are it feels like they're speaking about all the things that I'm going through. Cool. But
Great.
it
Yeah.
does become harmful when the feeling turns into this level of entitlement. And we
Mhm.
keep seeing that year after year, like with these shows. And I think you even spoke about it earlier, this level of entitlement to access to explanation from them, to an apology, to a say in their life when you do not know this person, or a say in a stranger's thread posts, apparently, which
Yeah.
is what happened here, right? And what I will say about season 8 in particular, season 8 is handing us case studies really in real time, right? So if you're wondering why people who are sociologists or like to watch behavior are fascinated, it's because these type of things keep happening in real time where we're like, what is this behavior? Like this could really be a part of of research or of a dissertation of some sort, or just of us like really analyzing how people are connecting to other people.
Mhm.
You have the discourse around beauty standards. You have people debating about like, well, who's desirable? Now we see two darker skinned Black women in the final, and they were being seen as desirable. And that conversation matters because desirability politics and colorism are honestly sometimes one and the same, and they're very real. And then
Truly.
the
Yeah.
other side of it, you have like grown men posting a video calling the show Gay Island and promising to expose a contestant as being on the down low. And like, it's just like all this stuff that's just very honestly quite weird, right?
It
Because
is
you guys
very
are not used to
strange.
seeing, yeah, platonic relationships or bromance, or you guys aren't used to like not being able to sexualize people. And granted, that is all production's fault. This is
Sure.
the most sexualized like season to me that I've seen of Love Island. Like even I was turned off by the amount of kissing. Even I was turned off by like the first questions of like what position do you like the most? Like you are basically setting them up for okay, like can we have truly deep relationships to your point that you made when we talked in our Love
Mhm.
Island
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
I think, and I'll say this again, I said it in the last episode, you cannot say that you care about people's mental health if you are engaging in this type of behavior where you're claiming the right to narrate somebody's identity that you do not know and they cannot speak for themselves either, right? So me giving you guys a post about here is what media does
Mhm.
to Black women pretty consistently. And here's what the research shows. And here's why, like, it's very dangerous to talk about Anaya's hair, to put manipulator on her, to put XYZ on her, to say, well, no, Casey was processing, but Anaya, she's a manipulator, right? And then vice versa, I will say, to say, oh no, Casey is wrong, or Casey did this, or he deserves a villain at it. Mind you, Casey, in my opinion, and I have said this and I will stand on it again, Casey does not deserve the vitriol that he has been getting in terms of the racism component,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or him being called red pill, or him. I just genuinely think he, like many of the cast, are not good with their words. The amount of times that I heard I genuinely am tired.
Mhm. Mhm.
right? So do I think he fumbles his words? Yes. Do I think red pill content is to blame for that? I don't know. I don't know him.
Yeah. Well, I would say that,
Yeah.
I spend a great deal of time professionally helping people learn to communicate what they feel inside, outside their bodies,
Same.
right? And
Mhm.
many of the men that I work with, I mean, I teach women these skills too, but many of
Mm,
the men that I work with are not red pill, right? So I don't think that there is inherently a connection. I think that men have a hard time expressing themselves, particularly in social, emotional, relational ways. That is a product of
mhm.
how we raise
Mhm.
men, right? That is separate entirely from this concept of like whether someone is red pilled or not.
Yeah, like the Harper's Bazaar article, while I enjoyed the writer's perspective, can I say that I fully agree with
Mm,
it? I don't know, right? I'm not a single 20-something-year-old who's looking to date. Do I think that there's something to consider when we talk about how red pill content influences young men, especially young men of color? Perhaps,
mhm,
right? Do it.
mhm.
I think that, but to your point, I also think that we don't always raise men in general to speak about their emotions in a way that is one feels safe to do for them
Yeah.
without them being labeled something, and that is the issue that I have with the red pill take, right?
Oh,
For
100%. I
Yeah,
think it's
because
that
it's
we
yeah,
socialize men to be this way and then we punish them for
and then
being
we
this way.
punish them for being this way. I can see that full-heartedly. And do I think that Casey said some very real things out of a mouth that wasn't broken and that I didn't see producers tell him to say?
Mhm,
And so he was getting flack for the things that he said and did as a result of the things that he said and did? Yes.
mhm.
Consequences happen.
They do. They do. And it's funny.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this a lot lately, particularly since we started this podcast.
Mhm.
I think that there are layers of analysis to
Mhm.
every issue, and
Mhm.
that a lot of folks just like don't have the skills to pay the bills, right? To
Wake it up.
analyze at these different layers.
Wake it up.
Right? And
Wake it up.
so, sure, right? Like we could stay, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like we could stay very
Yep.
narrowly at this idea that like the way that he spoke about her and other women on the show is really offensive, concerning, problematic, whatever.
Mhm.
Right. I think
Mhm.
when we're ready to take that to the next layer, right, of like, oh, like what about, right? What does this tell us about men? What does this tell us about society? What does this tell us about patriarchy? What does this tell us about gender? What does this tell us about socialization? Right. Y'all not ready for that conversation. And I don't mean that really in a negative way.
Yeah, and not even in an elitist way either.
Hmm.
However, when you decide to I'm sorry, let me let you finish thought. Go ahead.
No,
Please,
no,
please,
no.
please.
You and I are on the same page, right?
Yeah,
Which
we
is
are.
that if you want to have that conversation, be prepared to have that conversation, right? And it needs to be more than like, I just feel like, blah, blah, blah.
Yes, because you can have feelings all day.
Hmm.
Take me to the source that supports your
Hmm.
argument. Bring back debate teams.
Truly,
Bring
right?
back debate
Truly.
teams that have to cite their sources.
Hmm.
Cite your sources.
Yeah. I
People
think
having
it's about
opinions is one thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's about
Mhm.
credibility, right? And I will be the first to say this, which is that lived experience is a
Mhm.
type of credibility,
Mhm.
right? So this is not me working to be elite. It's, well, if you don't have like the text
Mhm.
and like the
Mhm.
citation in APA format, then I don't give a what you have to say. That's not what I mean. Well, actually, I might say that depending on the layer of analysis and the
Yeah,
context of
depending
the
on
analysis,
what you're
right?
saying. If
If
you are
you're trying to
using
have a
particular words
scholarly
for me,
argument with
yes.
me, then
Mhm.
bring your facts, playa,
Mhm.
right? If you
Mhm.
want to have a vibes argument with me, that's okay, right?
Yeah.
But like you can bring your vibes, right? But be ready to like put them in a coherent argument, right? Like I
Argument.
think this because of this and this,
Mhm.
right? And not just I disagree with you, and because I feel like I disagree with you, I assume that that means that you are wrong and I am right,
And
and
then I
thus you
assume
should be
you're a
quiet.
horrible person on top of that. And
Yeah.
then I assume that you
Mm-hmm.
can't do your job. And then I assume, yeah. So was my
Mm-hmm.
take. So, and I think also what I wanted to add on to that too is I, as a licensed professional, as a professional, I could take you could take the license out of it because I was doing research before I was licensed. So
Yeah.
me
Same.
as a yeah, me as a professional who went to school, who had to do research, who had to write 10-page papers before ChatGPT and had to like be up in the
Mm,
library and have to open a book and have to go through line by line, who had to do all of that. I am not debating with people who are not my peers. I think I'm channeling that from Dr. Raquel Martin because she
mm-hmm.
has said something very similar, if not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can teach people who are not my peers
Yeah.
if they are willing to learn. And
Yeah.
so if you come to a page that is either by Felicia Village of Sound Mind or you're on by Felicia Threads, some of that is my opinion. Some of that, when I have citations, I assume that you are willing to learn. And if you are not willing to learn, I
That's
am
okay.
not going to
Mm-hmm.
debate you. I am going to block you, especially if you're being nasty. Now, there's one person who was in the comments that was kind and was like, well, can you tell me more about this? And I engaged in that conversation because that means you're open to being taught. And I was able to say, from my opinion, from my lens, and from what I know, this is what I'm seeing. And this is where we're getting lost in translation when it comes to the both of them. I'm not going to engage with y'all if there's just vitriol and, I don't know, a weird allegiance to just be contrarian and decide like, well, you don't like Black men. Okay, cool. Well, get off my page. You didn't have to announce your exit. You could have just left.
Totally.
So I do, what I will say is I do have the thicker skin. I'm a child of the 99s and 2000s. I do have a thicker.
You might have to come a little harder than.
Yeah, you're gonna have to come a little harder at me, like, to be quite honest. So, but I do think that if you guys really truly care about mental health, please check how you're engaging. We do know in the past that contestants of the show have lost their lives because of the cyberbullying. We do know that Black contestants, both of the darker skinned women, not the ones who won, Anaya, was posted on George Floyd's body. TT was posted as a gorilla. I think that is gross. Just gross. I don't understand. And Black bodies carry the heaviest weight of all, always. Especially darker skinned Black women, always. So when we say parasocial harassment is a mental health issue, I'm not being dramatic. I'm being pretty accurate about that. It is harmful to mental health. I truly think you guys are playing games. Some of y'all who are saying like, oh, I really do care about mental health. And then you engage in a parasocial way. Have you woke it all the way up? And my invitation to you would be this. Please check your relationship with people who are on your screen because you don't have one. You don't have a relationship with those people. You don't have one. You identify with them, but you can be invested without being entitled. You can 100%. Be invested in a person's art, in a person's acting, in the way that a person is showing up without being entitled to what you think you deserve from them. They do not owe you anything. You do not know those people. You can critique their behavior without, one, using clinical terms that you do not know how to use, and without attacking their humanity and dehumanizing them. There are strangers who are whole people. You do not know their whole lives. And it should not take for a tragedy to make you realize, oh yeah, that was a human. If you notice you feel very personally betrayed by someone who does not even know your name, would not even be able to pick you out in the street to say, hey, you, that's a signal. That's a signal to you. Get curious about what connection it is that, one, you may be looking for, but also what is this connection holding for you? Why are you so invested? And I think that's the piece, actually. Like sometimes the parasocial relationship is doing a job. You get to ask, what job is this doing that I am so invested? So yeah, I think that's a question for the comments. Like, have you ever caught yourself in a parasocial spiral? What snapped you out of it? Do you want us to talk about that more? Because we can.
We certainly can.
We certainly can. But guys, Love Island is such a deeply and serious show. Like, please don't.
Of all the things to be yelling at other people about.
Such a deeply and serious show.
Yeah.
Like, please, like, and I'm just gonna block y'all. So shout out to the people that got blocked.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Show
if you're
yourselves
listening,
here
welcome,
too,
haters.
so I can block
like,
you
we
here
love
too.
to have you here. Like and subscribe.
Yeah, please like and subscribe. But then if you do want to show yourself, just know you're gonna get blocked. And I would love for you to show yourself so we can wake it all the way up. But also, we do appreciate everybody who has been watching. We really do. We have a goal. I think I said this on one of my pages. I said that we have a goal of 100 subscribers by the time that summer ends. And summer ends, I don't even know. Let me look it up. Summer ends when? I don't know. September 22nd on 2026. 2026, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. So by September 22nd, 2026, we would love to have at least 100 subscribers, if not more. And I think we could do it.
Yeah,
I really do. Great. I think we really could. I think we really could do it. It would be awesome. But yeah, I will hand it over to you. Anything else, Jason?
I think that's it for me. That's what's happening, folks. 3 topics. Well, really 2 topics this time. One conversation underneath all of it. So if you enjoyed watching this conversation, please like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. If you are listening, then find us on social media. Tell us what you are seeing in our culture that needs the same lens. You can find me on LinkedIn at Jason L. Herndon. I also write at somemin.substack.com.
Yes, you can find me at my personal page by Felicia, and you can find my practice page at Village of Sound Mind, and you can also find me on Threads at by Felicia. Please be
stirring
kind.
the pot.
Please be
Yeah.
kind.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
offerings, Jason? Please put what offerings that you're doing out there
Oh,
for
so
people to know about.
I am probably going to be starting a consultation group at some point
Yeah.
in the foreseeable future. So if you are a
Yeah.
therapist, particularly a couples therapist, and you want to kick it around some ideas related to infidelity recovery, which is my area of expertise, there will be interest form in the show notes. You can sign up and let me know if you
Yay.
want to do that. The podcast is at the Weight and the Wonder podcast on Instagram and on YouTube at Weight and Wonder podcast. All links are in the descriptions. Felicia, before we close out, what are you up to at offering?
Yeah, so the Grove is opening. It's, the lovely ladies and femmes and non-binary pals from Holding Space that I have been doing for over a year and some change, which is my affinity space for Black women, to just have soft spaces to land once a month. I have decided to open the Grove. They had asked for a membership community where they can just still connect and be connected with one another. And so the Grove is my answer to that. I especially see folks who, for whatever reason, they cannot get more outside or more engaged in their community as a result of being having non-apparent disabilities like myself, or having just some things that are going on in their life that is just preventing them from connecting. Maybe they live in a remote area or they live overseas and they just can't find people with like minds. So the Grove is opening for that reason, and I'm really excited about that. And Holding Space is back. By the time that this posts, I think Holding Space will be coming up on that Sunday because it is July 26th. That is when we are officially back. So yeah, and I'm really excited about that. So that is what's
Yeah.
going on. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
Again, Jason told you guys where to find us. You can find us at the Weight and the Wonder podcast. You
Yep.
can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find us on here on YouTube. Please like, comment, subscribe. Please let us know what you would like us to chat about, because we can chat about numerous things. We really just pull some of these things out of our hat, but we would love to be more engaged. So for those
Absolutely.
of you who are a part of our Wonder Club, let us know. Wake it all the way up. And yeah, I'm so grateful for you guys. We have gone from a cozy coffee shop to what holds 60 people? A school auditorium?
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we're filling up a school auditorium now, guys. So yeah, we would like the school auditorium
It's so funny
to
to me. I'm like,
we
yeah,
would like
okay.
the school
Why not?
auditorium to be full. So please
Please.
fill our pep rally. Fill
That's
our
right.
pep rally up. Okay.
Such a nerd.
I know. All right, guys. Until next time, I hope you find the weight.
Hold the weight.
Oh, shoot. All right, guys. But bum. Until next time, I hope you hold the weight.
And find the wonder.
We love y'all. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.